and we conclude WrestleMania debates talking about last year's WrestleMania 36, the show that was just too big for one night. And because this book has literally nothing about WrestleMania 36 since I got it in 2019, which is when the book came out, I don't have anything to read from this book, so we don't need this. And I got a chance to read, and I was super shocked that WrestleMania 36 has broken records for the lowest attendance at a single WrestleMania. Yes, this show had 0 members in the Performance Center. I wonder why. Well, 2020 was gonna go down as one of the weirdest, most horrible years of all time. That being whether you're talking about wrestling or not. There was a lot of crazy shit, a lot of fucked up shit that happened in 2020, but we're just gonna mainly focus on wrestling. Now, following 2020 in the beginning of the year, we got our Super Bowl, we got our Oscars, we got our Golden Globes, we got all of those. But for the wrestling fans, we unfortunately got hit with one of the biggest game changers in the entire world, and that being the coronavirus spreading and literally made everybody shut down and go on lockdown. There was like, obviously, we just had to close down, just stay home, stay locked, and just do the best we can to survive. And yeah, this was very interesting. So a lot of people, like I remembered, so for those of you who do not know this, I used to have my own podcast. I got canceled right after the pandemic hit, and luckily, good news, I'll be starting that pretty soon. But a lot of things have changed. Restaurants were not open, and everything was just down. And there was really a lot of stuff just canceled. Nothing to watch, nothing to do. And WWE literally said, dude, we are going to go down as the only thing that's available to watch on national TV that's new. So Vince McMahon, that crazy son of a bitch, took advantage of it, and basically WrestleMania 36, it was too big for one night. But let's be honest, the coronavirus is a very deadly disease. Hello, there's a lot of fucking deniers. People in my family are fucking deniers. But I could truly tell that deep down, Triple H wanted to have a show for us to kind of not think about the coronavirus. So I could tell that Triple H cares. The McMahons themselves, you could clearly tell that they wanted a quick cash grab, and it was kind of weird. And like I said, some of these matches were really hard to watch, not because they were bad. It's just that there was a coronavirus that made sure that nobody could have like stayed in contact. So a lot of these matches didn't work out as good as we thought because they didn't have a crowd. Example, crazy enough, one of my favorite matches on this card itself, night 2, Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. That was the best built story heading into WrestleMania. And that moment where Mandy Rose finally got to kiss Otis, that should have deserved a pop, but unfortunately we didn't get it. It did inspire 2 epic cinematic matches. One, I think, is one of the best matches we've ever seen. That being the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. That was a great match. And the Firefly Funhouse, which is very debatable amongst fans, myself included. I'm not the highest on the the Firefly Funhouse match, but a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I will say this. If it weren't for COVID-19, I guarantee you this night they would have tried to have a long ass show, and it wouldn't have worked out. I'm pretty sure people would fucking hate it. So they did the smart thing of making it too big for just one night. They constantly said that, but I think they were really smart about spreading or separating WrestleMania to be 2 nights, because otherwise people would have just been sick of WrestleMania, especially with all the matches we had. That means we did have to fill up a bunch of names in, because Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley, they actually had a pretty decent match, but it was clearly the most random match you could ever possibly imagine. And not to discard either of these two, they're two great workers, but they would just kind of shoehorn in together because they had nothing for these guys, and they were the two of the top stars at the time. But you got to really think about one particular thing that could have changed it all. That being Roman Reigns. Yes, Roman Reigns. If it weren't for if he walked away earlier, I guarantee you WrestleMania 36 wouldn't have happened. If Roman Reigns said, "Nope, I'm not doing this. I'm out." If he did that as soon as possible, we wouldn't have had a WrestleMania 36. What we could have tried to do is have, because I heard the original plan was that they were gonna do WrestleMania 36. They were gonna postpone it and do it at a live Madison Square Garden event, which would have been cool. Only one problem: the coronavirus just started. We did not know how long this was gonna last. So, honest to God, I think WWE did the right thing of just getting it out of the way. The biggest problem that they did is that they kept doing shows. Somehow they convinced the mayor of Florida that professional wrestling is essential. And what did that lead to? It led to a bunch of unnecessary firings, uh, and a lot of people got let go of their jobs, and it was horrible. They really just should have done what the world should have been doing, mainly in the United States. This goes for everybody, not just professional wrestling. They should have postponed everything. They should have just shut down everything and just stayed quarantined like they should have. Stop doing rent. There was no point. Like, what the fuck is wrong with Americans? Like, they're so needy. Like, they need to get out. And I mean, there's a reason why Japan, they get to do events and have sort of little crowds. That's why New Japan has smaller crowds, because they listen. They know, oh shit, this is serious. We cannot fuck this up for the world. Us in America, we are, no offense, we are pretty bad fucking people. But I will say this: this WrestleMania, I enjoyed night one more than I did night two. A lot of people say the opposite. I disagree. Like, the only thing I liked about night two as a match, as a legit match, was Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Everything else was, they had some little cool moments, but and Edge and Orton, which to this day is the second longest match behind Brett and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 12. This is the second longest match ever, and I thought the match was kind of boring. And Edge and Randy Orton is a match that really should have benefited from having a crowd. And that's another thing. Why didn't these matches try to have a crowd? Like, you could have had some people, like kind of like what they originally did, having members from the NXT roster. That would have helped promote NXT. Like, having NXT superstars, like, oh, we're here to perform for the future generation of the WWE. That way they'll be inspired or to like deal with a certain situation like this. This was definitely the biggest game changer. And honest to God, I don't think anybody is ever gonna go back to this WrestleMania. When it's time to do like a video, when it's time to do a montage of like a marathon of every WrestleMania. I know everybody does this, but at one point somebody watches every single WrestleMania up to this point, depending on which year it is. And when we go to this one, all we're going to be thinking about is the pandemic and COVID-19 in 2020. And that is definitely very disappointing. I feel bad for the guys who definitely did try. Like, some people had massive moments, but they didn't get to experience it without a crowd. Drew McIntyre won his first ever WWE Championship in front of no crowd. Hopefully, WrestleMania 37, we get to change that. Like I said, Dolph Ziggler had his first ever singles match, something he's been dying to have at a WrestleMania, and it's in front of no crowd. Hell, Andrade was gonna have his first WrestleMania ever, but he got injured and Austin Theory replaced him. And I'm not blaming COVID-19 for his injury, but you could say that it's not the same without a crowd because people who take the bumps, they usually have a crowd to get them pumped. Now that they're taking bumps with no reaction, it's just like it really fucking hurts because you're not invested, you're not as excited, you're not like as proud as taking that bump for that crowd. You're not pleasing anybody because no one's there, and that sucks. Braun Strowman, Jesus Christ, he might have been the luckiest man in the world of just being there at the right place at the right time because the original plan was Roman and Goldberg, and yeah, Roman took off, he took his ball, and Braun Strowman replaced him. I will say this. I think, like I said, Roman Reigns, if he was gonna leave, I honestly think he should have done it sooner. But personally, I don't hate Roman Reigns for that. I think Roman Reigns was a smart guy. He had kids. Jesus Christ, he came out of leukemia just 2 years prior. And he could have died. So yeah, he should be the last person that should have been wrestling during the early stages of COVID-19 because we at this point, keep in mind, we didn't have no Thunderdome. We didn't have like no small crowds like in the Super Bowl with 2,500 people or 25,000 people, I should say. Um, so we didn't know what to do in this situation. The best thing that they did is do their show, entertain us, have us just take our mind off of COVID-19, get us invested, and then just go home afterwards. The fact that WWE continued afterwards is so horrible, and it really just showed that they were just bad. Like, if the USA Network needed to air something from the WWE, if they were so damn desperate, why didn't they finally make an agreement to take an off season? Why didn't they do reruns of past previous great episodes of Monday Night Raw, or just show us classic matches like they did during the road to this WrestleMania? Remember that? Every time we had to, for any time they didn't have anything ready for us, they just reran a specific match from a WrestleMania. Hell, they did the Royal Rumble replay of that year. Uh, One of my favorite reruns was Cena and Wyatt from WrestleMania 30 because it had a reason for it to happen. They also reran the main event of WrestleMania 35, being Becky, Charlotte, and um, Ronda. Um, I'm not gonna really talk about like, oh, who should have won, who didn't, because that doesn't matter. What mattered is, was WWE right to continue WrestleMania 36? And the answer to that is yes. They should have just gotten it out of the way and then go home. That gave us more reason to get excited for when they do come back. Hell, the NXT UK roster all took off. I mean, to be fair, they're in the UK, so there's more stricter rules over there than here in the US. So that made sense. But they did us a bunch of reruns that no one really watched. But when they did come back, apparently they were one of the stronger shows out there to watch. Like, we saw Walter versus Ilja Dragunov, and that match was fantastic. And that's what WWE should try to think about doing. Just not just because of COVID-19, but just in general, just take an off season. Uh, Stay home, write down some ideas of what you could do next for these future stars, and work your way around that. Like, the reason why I didn't work for Lucha Underground, the reason why I didn't work for Lucha Underground taking an off season is because we're constantly thinking, will they, won't they come back? You're the WWE, you're the biggest company there is. You should take a break. Some people could say, oh, AEW didn't take a break. AEW was doing, they taped their entire shows. So all they had to do is wait until Double or Nothing. I personally think that they themselves also should have like stayed home. But they were smart. They taped all of their shows up to Double or Nothing, but then they came back. Also around this time, things were kind of like dying down, if that made sense, but not quite really. I don't know. That is my personal take. Yes. I think WWE did the right thing to continue, get our mind off of everything, have something new to watch, and hell, they even tried with building up their matches. Um, the Drew and Brock, that feud was great. Edge and Orton, that feud was great. Cena White, also great. Otis, Dolph Ziggler, great. Charlotte and Rhea, that definitely was a really good one. There was a lot of great build up matches. Whether or not they delivered or not, that's up to you. Whatever you want to say. Oh, the Boneyard match. Jesus Christ! Without COVID-19, Undertaker would have probably never retired. Because if he had a live match with AJ Styles, the match would have been all right at best, and Undertaker would still not want to retire. So at least we got to say that Undertaker retired. That's all I gotta say about this. I hope you guys really enjoyed these videos. I do want to do this again next year. This was a lot of fun. Spitball some ideas. I'll save them. Hopefully, I'll remember in a year what ideas you guys had. And check out the previous ones, the previous episodes. Those were a lot of fun to do. So, really sit down and enjoy these videos. It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Goodbye, WrestleMania debates. I hope to see you next year. And until then, I'm out.